Right, I'm sat here today with one of the top iconic records of the Northern Soul scene. In beautiful condition, as you can see, the labels are more or less perfect. The B-side is actually mint minus. The A-side looks like at some point in its life it's been jammed in without a sleeve between two records, and has left some very fine scuffing just on one area. If you want to have a look at that, that's really clean. It's a really clean copy. You look at it, it does play beautifully, as you're about to find out when it gets signed filed. Now, the story about this record all started with a record that I needed. It was by Andre Maurice, You're the Cream of the Crop, which was, at the time I bought this, one of the most popular dance floor records in the country. Now then, I rang John Anderson up at King's Lynn at Soul Bowl, and he said he had an Andre Maurice, if I'd like it. I said, I'll get in the car. We did that in them days. We would travel hundreds of miles just to pick up one record. I'll get in the car now and I'll have it for the weekend. So anyway, I went to King's Lynn, and John Anderson passed me a box with Andre Maurice in, but also lots of other stuff that I didn't know. So, as you do, being a digger, you dug some things out, played the intros of them and thought, well, that's good. And Cheatin Kind's intro, as you know now, is an absolute juggernaut, matched only by Don Gardner's booming voice. I loved it. I thought it was great. So anyway, I did the deal. Andre Maurice cost me a huge sum. It cost £60 back in 1965, which was massive, you know. And this one, this baby, Don Gardner, cost me £3. I did play Andre Maurice at Cleethorpes that weekend. Fantastic response. Not so much Don Gardner, which I also played in the same set. Don Gardner didn't do much at all. Dance floor didn't appreciate what was going on. Their mindset was in funky 70s dance, and this one kind of died a death. But I persevered with it at Cleethorpes for about, must have been a year, and the regulars started to like it, and slowly but surely it started to get a dance floor response. It was a one-off though, so at the time, so nobody else in the country was helping me play it. So anyway, I went to the Ritz in 1976 and did a set there with Colin Curtis, Ian Levine, Neil Rushton. I think Richard Serling was there as well. I did a set there, and it was the days of Tavares, Heaven Must Be Missing an Angel, The Miracles, City of Angels LP with Love Machine on it, and they were the records that were packing the floor in those days. Miracles, Love Machine, Heaven Must Be Missing an Angel, they were monster dance floor favourites. In the middle of all that, I thought, I'll tell you what, I'll play my Don Gardner. And from a rapturous dance floor, and the Ritz dance floor it was sprung and it used to bounce up and down, the whole place was jumping. I thought, I'll tell you what, I'll try Don Gardner in my set. Absolutely cleared place. I don't think one person danced to it, and all of them looked at me in bemusement. So anyway, I was pretty downhearted about the response that 60s records that day were having. The next on the decks was Colin Curtis, and he asked me, he says, would you like Andre Gagon and a thing called Wow, which had just been discovered on Decca. It was a French recording, if I remember right. It was a horrible disco French instrumental. But anyway, I thought, yeah, I need that. Well, certainly do need it, because everybody's dancing to this type of stuff. Andre Maurice proved that, and Love Machine and Miracles and all that. They proved that. And he says, what you got in your DJ box to swap? And I says, I don't know. He says, I'd like that Bernie Williams, the Bernie Williams Ever Again. He says, I'd like that. I says, okay. And then Colin says, I'll swap you it for Andre Gagon's Wow, which today, by the way, if you don't know, is worth about £4, and it's horrible, and not a record I ever want to hear again. So stupidly, drowning in my sorrows of none of the 60s records working that day, I swapped it with, and I think it must have gone off to Ian Levine in the bar, falling about laughing at what Manship's just done. He just gave me Bernie Williams Ever Again for Andre Gagon's Wow. And it was a wow because the record was horrible. And anyway, so at the end of my set and at the end of Colin's set, we went into the Ritz. I went down the stairs, the podium from where the disco equipment was, and Ian Levine said, "Can I have a look in your DJ box?" And he was hoping he was going to get a great deal like Colin Curtis did with my Bernie Williams. Well, what he got was possibly the best deal of anybody buying records, Northern Soul wise, ever had then or will ever have since. He pulled Don Gardner out of my box and says, "You just played that, didn't you?" I says, "Yeah, it died." He says, "How much do you want for it?" And you know something, I paid £3 for it. So I said to Ian Levine, £3 okay? Said, "Yeah, I'll have that for £3." And then he pulled out Inspirations, No One Else Can Take Your Place on Breakthrough. I said, "I ain't selling that for £3. I need 20 on that." So he says, "Yeah, okay, I'll give you 20 on that." The next record he pulled out was the Utopias on LaSalle. And I says, "I ain't selling that for £3 either. I'll sell you that for £15. And then there was another record, and for the life of me, I've been trying to think today what it was. But it's another really expensive record that I ain't going to see again. And I think I sold him that for £15. So for just over £30 that day, Ian Levine got the deal of a lifetime. So that was how Don Gardner left my hands, became a mecca spin with Ian, and also grew a reputation year on year, not only for being great. I mean, it really fell into the mood-changing stuff that Stafford were doing 5 years down the line. And its reputation grew and grew and grew, mainly because nobody could find a copy. It is genuinely rare. This is now, I think, about my 5th time it's been through my hand. It's world famous for when it was sent to Australia, to Australia's main collector over there, and it arrived by FedEx, and FedEx had kindly ran their truck over it and shattered it into so many pieces that poor old Barry Simpson had a panic attack and was still picking bits of Don Gardner out of his dog's woolly coat about a week down the line. So anyway, that's the story of Don Gardner's Cheatin Kind. Today, it is right up there in the top 5 most wanted Northern Soul records on the planet. This one has come through my hands because a friend of mine couriered it over from the USA to a guy, a very determined collector from not too far from me, and I'm going to hand deliver this to him in about 24 hours. And I'd just like to say, you can never predict what's going to happen with a Northern Soul 45. You know, I was willing to let that go for £3, and then it became today £15,000, 18,000, and it has been known somebody bought a mint copy for 20,000. So that was my bad day at the office back in 1976 when I sold 4 records, and when I think of the other one I'll probably cry even more. 4 records that were in my DJ box back in the day, and I've never been able to replace the Inspirations, never had one since. Don Gardner, I've had a few through my hands but not many. The Utopias on LaSalle, probably had 2 in my life, and one other thing which I probably forgot because it's just as painful as the other ones, But tonight this is going on our YouTube channel. You'll be able to hear it in its full glory. And I'd just like to say, I think everybody who's dealt in Northern Soul Records has collected Northern Soul Records as a tragic story of a glaring error that they've made whilst trying to collect the world's rarest records. That's my tragic error, but I'm glad to say there's a copy in my hands today. Thank you. Enjoy.